I'm Amy Volas, and I know the perfect questions to ask in an interview.
I'm Alexine Mudawar, and I know exactly what red flags to look out for in a new company.
I'm Lessard, and I know how to read between the lines of a job description.
And I'm Raj Nation. I know exactly how we're going to sort through this all. Or hell, I'm going to die trying. We're back, and we brought our friends along with us today for a special edition of Full Fun. Hey everyone, I'm Raj Nation, and welcome back to Full Funnel, SalesFeed's weekly show high in fiber and rich in antioxidants. Today we've got a special edition roundtable for you where we're talking about how to land a dream job in sales with some heavy-hitting experts dishing out all the best advice. So let's go ahead and meet our experts right now. First up, we've got the amazing Amy Volas, the CEO of Avenue Talent Partners, the co-founder of Thursday Night Sales, and the host of SalesFeed's podcast, Tales from the Field. You can bet she knows a thing or two about how to actually get a job in sales. Say hi, Amy.
Hello, hello.
And next, we've got Alexine Mudawar, strategic account executive at Alyce and co-founder of the Women in Sales Club. Alexine has been topping the leaderboard at all 7 companies she has worked at throughout her professional career. And she's here to give you everything you need to know on what it takes to actually find the right company. Say hi, Alexine.
Hi.
And then there's Tyler Lessard. You know him already. Tyler, why the hell are you even here?
I actually thought this was a job interview, so...
And I'm going to help moderate this whole thing, so let's dive right in. Top Funnel. Ever read a job description and just been completely confused as to what in the HE double hockey sticks you would even do at that company? Well, chances are the company might have been just as confused writing it. Tyler, you've got a ton of experience hiring people in your day, so what should someone be looking out for when they're actually reading through all these different types of jobs that are open?
Clarity and specificity, to your point, are really important in job descriptions to ensure that you're attracting candidates who can clearly deliver on what it is you need. But that is only one small part of it. If you are a job seeker and that job description only has the qualifications and the day-to-day activities, that's a red flag. You want to be looking for something that talks about the company culture, about how it is that you can grow, not just in a job, but in a career within that organization. Look for something that represents an opportunity for you to build your career and grow. Bonus points if they actually talk about things they offer you as a rep to help you grow in your career, such as training, technology, or enablement.
Alexine, you've got more like job rings than Tom Brady does Super Bowl rings, and you've just been crushing it everywhere you go. So how are you finding companies in the first place? What are you looking for, and what's making you say, I should probably try and get an interview there?
Yeah, so I would say the job description is one part of it for me. It's obviously important. I like to glance at that. I like to understand. A lot of times it'll tell me what territory I'm going to be working in, what my main focus is going to be, what the team construct looks like. But what's a lot deeper than that for me is understanding more about the cultures. I want to see what the company is talking about, but then I want to take it a layer deeper and see what are other folks on the sales team talking about? What does leadership talk about? Just so I can get some insight around what the actual folks are saying that are working there.
Now, Amy, what should companies be doing to make sure that they're writing a job description that's actually going to attract top quality talent?
This topic gets my blood pressure going. And the reason being is I just had a conversation yesterday with a founder, and I asked, when you created the job description, did you copy and paste somebody else's because it looked good, or did you create it from your own point of view in the work that was required to be done? And the answer was, I copied somebody else's.
No! No! No!
So remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is about the work that needs to be done, what success in the role looks like, and what it's really like to be part of the fabric of your organization. So the way that I think about a job description, just like a resume, it's merely an invitation for a conversation. And are you being magnetic to start one?
It's fun. True story. A friend of mine interviewed for a role as an SDR at a company. They gave him the offer letter. He signed the offer letter. And then 2 days later, they came back to him and said, sorry, this whole role was contingent on us getting some funding and our investors backed out, and now we don't have the role and we can't afford to hire you. How do you prevent something like that from happening? Alexine, you've got a ton of experience interviewing at places. What are the things that, that kind of sound an alarm in your head that say, maybe I don't even need to continue with them anymore?
There's definitely many things to look out for. I think one of the biggest ones for me is lack of specificity. For me, I like to get very specific, and I do that because I learned the hard way. If we're in conversations, we're talking about what my segment is going to be, what my quota quota is going to look like, who I'm going to be targeting, things like this.
Are you like specifically wanting to know like what my territory is going to be? And if it's not a solid territory, then you're like, oh, I don't even want to entertain this anymore?
I definitely want to understand my territory, but I also want to understand what the white space looks like. I want to understand where they have current customers today, what kind of success they've had, so that then I can kind of gauge and look at that.
So then, Amy, how are you actually coaching the people who are doing the hiring to make sure they can provide specific answers like that and not have it be a situation where they're constantly failing to get top quality talent?
One, use a hiring scorecard so that you can drill into and speak to the bits and pieces that are important to your decision criteria of how you're evaluating somebody coming through. The second thing is stop trying to sell people. We're going to be the next Google for this. We're going to be the next Uber for this. I don't care what you're going to be in the future because we all know it's going to look different than what it does today. Tell me about what's happening right now. And the third point and final point that is incredibly important is the fact that people do not expect perfection. They expect honesty and communication.
Tyler, from having interviewed and hired people yourself, what are things that are actually sounding off the alarm for you about the candidate?
It actually goes back to my previous conversation about thinking of it as a job versus a career. And it's very clear with a lot of people when they're just looking for their next job to help them pay the bills, which is typically not what I'm hiring for. I'm looking for somebody who's passionate about what they do. If I'm the only one asking questions and they're just giving answers, they're going through the motions and they haven't really prepared that well for the process. I love candidates who come in and start asking questions right off the bat and spend more time asking me about the business than me asking them about their qualifications. That gets me really excited and proves to me that this is somebody who wants to be a part of a career here and wants to know they're getting into the right thing before we even have the next conversation.
Bottom fun. We've all gotten to that point near the end of the interview where they say, well, what questions do you have for us? Now, Alexine, I've heard the best thing to do here is to just zip your lips and say, well, just give me the job, please.
There's so many questions that you should ask at the end of an interview. Obviously, we want to push for the close. We want to ask any final things that are outstanding. For instance, in my last job search and coming over to Alyce, I noticed that I prioritized the leadership as number one on my list. So my questions when we got down to the end of the process were very much focused on the leader themselves. What is their leadership style? What kind of coaching do you do when a candidate is falling behind, for instance? But all of this hinges on you doing this scorecard before you even really enter the interview process. So I highly encourage doing this as soon as you're starting to evaluate new companies.
How does someone figure out what their top priority or priorities should even be?
This is a huge problem that people face is they don't know what's important to them. What does success in the role look like for you? When you've struggled and you're miserable, and we've all been there, what does that look like? I believe in the power of a journal. Getting it down on paper and getting clear with that, those different bits and pieces that you pull out from that exercise are the criteria that shape what the scorecard is all about. When you're clear, everything else around you becomes very clear, and it helps you understand how to go into that discussion to be well prepared in the questions to ask. And I'm a big fan of 2 ears, 1 mouth. But here's the thing. When I think about that and I'm listening to somebody speak, I'm making notes as they communicate with me. And if there's something that comes up that I want to better understand, I think most people choke at the end when it's like, what questions do you have for me? And then afterwards, it's like a tough conversation. You do this and you're like, man, I should have asked all these other things. But if you're listening in the conversation and you're making notes, in that moment, you can go back to your notes and say, 10 minutes ago, you mentioned this, and I'd love to better understand that. Can you explain that further about how that affects the team?
When I was in college, I remember during some of the Career Center resources were like, you should always ask, what's a typical day in the life like at this company? And I'll tell you, I did ask that question, and 100% of the time, the response is, well, every day is different. What kind of questions have you heard when you've been interviewing someone where you're like, wow, that's actually a really good question, and I'm happy to answer that for you?
Well, I mean, I'm still reeling. I'm shocked you went to college, Rob. It's a great point because there are all these like nuanced questions that you can ask that I think a great theme here has also been around specificity. And one of the areas that I find people don't ask enough about is how does the collaboration work with other parts of the organization? So as a salesperson, if you're talking to a sales leader about an opportunity at their organization, ask them about how does your team work with marketing? How does your team work with enablement? How does your team work with product? Because if they say, oh, marketing, those clowns, you're like, all right. This isn't going to be the place for me because I'm just not going to be set up for success.
The close. In Top Funnel, we covered how to actually decipher what you should be looking for in a company. It's all about clarity and specificity. In Mid Funnel, we covered how to spot those red flags on the job hunt. Guess what? That too comes down to clarity and specificity. And in Bottom Funnel, we talked through what kind of questions you should be asking your potential employer during the actual interview. Guess what? It also comes down to asking questions that have clarity behind them and are specific about the role and the company. Our funnel is full. We hope you can get back out there now and fill up yours. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe before you head out of here. This has been such an awesome special treat of this roundtable special edition of Full Funnel. Big shout out to Amy and Alexine for joining us today. Follow Amy and Alexine's content as well. Connect with them. They want to have you in their networks. He's Tyler Lessard. I'm Raj Nation. You've been watching Full Funnel exclusively on Sales Feed. We'll catch you next week. But in the meantime, remember, a 2,000 calorie diet is recommended by a standard physician, but consult your physician for your own personal dietary needs.